Hi, everyone who's joining us today. It is really thrilling to be here with you today. My name is Nikki Pumphrey, and I have the pleasure of serving as the managing director of Scholas here in Philadelphia. We're a nonprofit that is committed to economic equity and providing opportunities through free technology skills training. And I also have the honor of serving as your moderator today. So over the course of the next hour, we are going to hear from incredible individuals, Ben, Jabari, and Lauren. And unfortunately, Shannon Morales couldn't join us today. She is on a plane as we speak, getting the job done. But each of these folks have their own unique story and are going to share some really useful advice for creating your career in tech. And that is why we are here today. And if we do our job today, if we do it well, you will leave this event with information about what it takes, how to choose and start and progress in the tech industry. We know that there are no two pathways in, and there are lots of options in tech once you choose this as your career. And so we are here today to help you navigate. So we will spend about the next 40 minutes hearing from our panel, and we do want to hear from you. So I want to make sure that if you have questions, that you're dropping them into the chat, and then we'll spend the last 20 minutes of the webinar today getting to your questions and hearing from you. So that's great. I am going to ask each of our panelists in order to just quickly introduce themselves, who they are and what they do. And so I'll call on each of you and then you can progress. So how about you, Ben? Do you want to just introduce yourself quickly?
Yes, thank you, Nicole. Hi, everyone. My name is Ben Perrin Houssou. I'm System Support Engineer at Red River. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. All right, Jabari.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jabari Adams. I am one of the managing directors of company relations at Launchcode.
And Lauren.
Hi, I'm Lauren Boyd. I am a senior recruiter at Seer Interactive, a digital marketing agency. Been there for almost 8 years now. Great to see everybody.
Great. Well, I'm really lucky to have all three of you on this panel today, and we're going to go through a series of questions. I'm going to ask each of you a few questions and just ask that you sort of respond, and we'll keep going. But I want to start off with you, Ben. You're a Scholas graduate, and I have had the pleasure of getting to know you. But your story started before Scholas, and you've done quite a lot after going through our program. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey into tech? Where did you start, and what steps did you take to help you start to think about getting into technology?
Thank you so much, Nicole. I really appreciate it. Once again, good afternoon, everyone. Everything started back a couple of years ago. I was in New York, right, into the hospitality business. I was a cook, bartender, waiter. I was trying my best to just get into IT, but I couldn't at all. Why? Because of the time. I was making money, don't get me wrong. But you know how it is in New York. You make the money, have to pay rent, all those kind of stuff. You can't afford any college, university. When you go online, they tell you 50,000, 30,000 per year. Like, how am I going to support myself and even try to study? I told myself, Ben, just forget about it. There's no way you can just get into that. There's no way. I kept moving. I had a couple of friends of mine that told me, how about those companies that ask you, put $5,000 down, please, and then they train you. After they train you, they get you a job, and then you pay them back. I was like, okay, you know what? Let me think about it. A couple of months later, I have friends coming back to me. They're still struggling financially. Why? You know, when you have a contract, most of the time we think we know everything that's inside the contract. Most of the time we don't. They did pay those 5,000 down as a deposit. They got the training. They got hired. They started. But the money they were earning couldn't help them pay back wherever they asked, like at the beginning. And that was just making them going through a lot of stress. And I told myself, dream about IT, then once again, forget about it. One day I just like surfing the net and I went to Indeed and wanted an entry-level position. I would see people posting tier 3 requirements into a tier 1 position. I was like, why? Like, people really want people to get into IT or not. Then I found Scholas. I told myself, listen, this is another scam. How about just like forget about it? And my wife told me, no, go for it. Let's see what we get. I went, bless me, God bless Regan. Regan got me and she told me, Ben, where are you from? All those stuff, like questions. I answered them. She told me, okay, in a week, we're going to get back to you. In a few days, she got back to me. I'm like, okay, next step, maybe they're going to ask for the money again. She didn't ask for no money. I was surprised. She got me into the event. We have a quick breakdown. We talk, all that stuff, and then we started the classes. With Scholas, I was able to get my A+. I started a job. My instructor, he got back to me a few months later because I told him I always wanted to get into security. He told me, Ben, listen, I know you can do it. Go for it. Anything you want. Student Q&A, just tell me, text me, call me. I'm going to be there for you. That touched me. I went back home, I couldn't sleep. I started learning again for my Security Plus. I got my Security Plus. I went back because while I was working at the Red River, one thing about Red River, they push you to get more certificates, they keep going. And Scholas also pushes you up. Come on, Ben, you can do it, just go for it. Every single of us, unless you don't want to be part of it. I got Regan and Network Plus, she got me inside, I got my Network Plus. After that, I got my CCNA, I got my AWS certificate, and I'm planning to get more. Why? Because of everything Scholas put in place. I couldn't be just like so grateful. Sometimes I tell myself, listen, Ben, you're just cheating on yourself because people out there, they're paying crazy amount of money and they can't even get into tech. And the real thing, don't get me wrong, the real thing is about getting all those financial aid and you making that good amount of money per year and you can't even pay it back because you're stuck into that system. Right now, I'm making money. I don't have to pay anything to Scholas back. So I'm like, what can I do? What do I have to do? I have friends out there. They want to get into tech, but because of so many things going on, because of people telling them, put down some deposit, put this money down. I told myself, no, I'm going to try my best to empower you guys out there. I've been into I started with the hospitality business. For you guys who've been waiter, bartender, you guys know how it is. Sometimes it's difficult to just switch, but you can do it. I don't want you to think it's impossible. If I did it, you can do it. I have a friend of mine right now. She really wants to get inside, but she keeps postponing. I told her, listen, you're going to make more money you're making as a bartender. You're going to make more money. And I know you're smarter than I. You can do it. All I want you to do is to make up your mind, and people out there are going to help you. We have Jabari there, Launchcode. We have a demo for One Philadelphia. We have Perrin. We can do it. All we need is make up your mind to get into it. Sometimes you get into it, but there's one thing. You get maybe your A+, Network Plus, and then you feel back, no, I'm tired, I don't want it. Think about tomorrow. Think about people you can get into the system just because those people will listen to you, will listen to your story. It's time we make that change. It's not going to be easy, trust me. But there's a sacrifice to pay. We have to pay for a sacrifice. Once we pay it, we're good to go. And think about not just you, but how many lives you're going to impact around you for people to become something tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Ben, I think it's such a testament to your grit, your determination, and your wantingness to give back to other folks. And I think we're really grateful that you're here today and sharing your story. And I'm going to come back to you because I think you've got a whole lot to offer. But I'm going to turn to Jabari. So Jabari, programs like Launchcode and Scholas, and let's name some other One Philadelphia partners, Launchpad and HopeWorks, they've really made it our business to make sure that students are successful and supported when they enter the tech workforce. What are some concrete ways that employers can support our grads, their grads, your grads at Launchcode, and acknowledge the diversity and the skills and the experiences that they bring?
I think to your point, just doing a basic acknowledgement of the process that they had to go through to get through one of our programs. I think, and I think you can attest to this, either going through a program at for Scholas or Launchcode, although they might seem shorter, they're extremely intense. And it takes a lot of persistence to be able to jump from one field of study or one industry into the tech industry and learn things from scratch. So I think just acknowledging the amount of dedication, persistence, and grit that it took to get through a program that intense in a very, very short period of time, and the willingness to kind of jump into another field is extremely important. And also being able to have a place for their transferable skills. So for example, if I come from my background's in education, so I am very sensitive and fond of educators who think that they don't have the ability to go from one industry to another, or from from education into technology. And it goes back to this conversation of, if you are able to be a regular classroom teacher, there are so many things that you have to offer another organization in the field of technology that the average person cannot offer them. Your ability to be a project manager, the ability to manage people, your public speaking capabilities, your organizational skills. I mean, I can go on and on, but being able to put those individuals on projects and in places that they can let that expertise shine, I think is extremely important from the employer's perspective.
I think you're totally right, Jabari. And I think the more that we can help folks see and understand those transferable skills, the more powerful and important our work is. What is some of your advice that you're giving to Launchcode students that are trying to break into tech? In addition to talking about transferable skills and experience, how do you help people start along this journey? How do you help them persist through rigorous programs like Launchcode?
The first thing is to get the information. I think exposure is the biggest thing. So being on webinars like this one, going to the One Philadelphia events, social media is huge. Shameless plug to one of my former students, Byron Jenkins. He has a huge social media following, where he goes into giving some details and some tidbits on getting into the tech field. Organizations like Travaha, Mentor Me Collective, P4 Hub, Midfield, they put on free events all the time and free webinars. We do info sessions here at Launchcode, where Scholas does info sessions. I think just getting in the spaces where tech people meet is one of the most important things for you to start to get the information. And then things like, asking for informational interviews. It doesn't hurt that, ask somebody for a coffee and say, hey, I just want to get a little bit more information about what it is that you do, how it works, and just so I can get some clarity. And then just like people contact people in the DMs on Instagram, do the same thing for tech, because you would be surprised the amount of information people have and want to freely give once you do those things.
All right. When we were prepping for this conversation, you said something really important, which was sometimes there's a lot of misconceptions about what tech is, how to get in. Can you talk a little bit about that? And what are you hearing from your learners? Where are there misconceptions about getting into tech? And what would you want people listening to us right now to know that it maybe is incorrect, or just information that you would want to provide for them?
Oh man, there's so many. If I could condense it though, one is definitely that there is only one way to get into tech. I think there's a misconception that if I want to get into tech, the only way for me to do it is that I have to go to a coding boot camp. I have to learn how to code. And there are so many different roles that you can get in. I know Lauren's going to be speaking to this a little bit later, but there's so many avenues for so many different personalities and skill sets. So for example, I have absolutely zero tech background. Had my previous supervisor not pushing me to apply, I would have never looked in tech's direction. But I do business development and career placement. Lauren is a recruiter, which I found out is extremely lucrative side of the business. There's sales, there's product management, project management. There's so many different spaces that you can get into. And then once you get into the field, then you have additional options once you get into the field. So the goal is just to walk into the door, and then there's so many rooms in the house that you can kind of walk through to get into. And then just understanding, the other thing is that programs like Scholas and Launchcode, just because they're either low cost or free, that they're easy. These programs are extremely intense. In some instances, a little bit more intense than you getting your college degree because the time period is a lot shorter. So just understanding that it's going to take work and it's going to take a lot of persistence and consistency to be able to get to the finish line with these programs. And I guess the last one would be to really understand what these programs are offering. There are a lot of programs who will be upfront about, hey, this is how much the tuition is, or, there's some programs that'll say, hey, we're not going to give you upfront tuition, but we're going to maybe take what we need on the back end. It's very important for you to get all of the information that you possibly can upfront so that you can make an informed decision about what programs are best for you, given their time period. There's some programs that are completely full-time. There's other ones that run part-time. Just being able to get all of that upfront, to me, is extremely important.
I think that's great advice, Jabari. I'm going to pivot to Lauren for a second. So Lauren, this very lucrative recruiting gig.
I
know. No, but seriously, I think the experience that you've had, Lauren, I learned a little bit before this call that you've actually been in recruiting and now are on the other side at Seer. And so I want to hear a little bit about your experience. Both Seer Interactive has made a firm commitment to building an inclusive, diverse team. And I think that that's fantastic. And I want to hear a little bit about, how are companies like Seer and other firms that you've worked with before as a recruiter, how are companies in general in the tech sector recruiting tech talent, and how has that changed? And I will say specifically, how have firms been more intentional about making sure that their hiring pipelines are more inclusive and reflective of the communities that they're in?
Sure. The strategies that talent acquisition teams have leveraged over the years, I have to imagine for myself, it's evolved significantly, especially in the last few years. So when you think about, the push towards hiring for remote roles, the transition to attending more virtual events versus in-person networking events, like obviously the pandemic was a catalyst for that, but I actually think this is advantageous for folks from diverse or untraditional backgrounds. I have pivoted towards attending a lot of those virtual events. And have tried to make a lot more intention around attending events like, we went to Black and Brown Students in Tech. We hosted a Blacks in Technology chapter meetup in our San Diego office, trying to intentionally attend events like those. Similarly with our job boards, making sure all of our roles are posted on, various HBCU job boards, AfricanAmericanHires.com, VeteranJob.net, places like that are great resources. We've definitely always had a relaxed education requirement, but companies can consider reducing a rigid education requirement to not require college degrees. We're very open to non-traditional candidates, and we also offer student loans reimbursement if someone did want to go to school. And allowing for roles to sit remotely also allows for a more diverse talent pool, and you're not just limited to talent that can sit within like a commutable distance of your office, which levels the playing field quite a bit. We have tried to get involved in more skills-based volunteering with the intent or final goal of further diversifying the industry. So a few of our teammates taught a class on the fundamentals of wireframing at Coded by Kids. We've also had team members partner with HopeWorks for an 8-week Google Analytics training course to allow them to set up Google Analytics and hopefully then get hired. Fun fact, we've actually hired a full-time employee and a contractor out of HopeWorks through those partnerships. And that full-time employee actually won MVP this year for one of our months. So that was a very exciting full circle moment. We also moved to offering salary transparency, both internally and externally, to kind of reduce that like negotiation power piece at the end of the offer. All of our roles are able to see what the range is. And again, trying to level the playing field a bit in terms of what information people have access to.
Lauren, I think that's incredibly helpful information. I want to hear a little bit about what Jabari mentioned. So transferable skills. Someone who's coming from a non-tech background may have been in the service industry, like Ben, right? For example, what are some things that people can be doing to highlight their experience? How do they talk about it? What do you, as a recruiter, what do you want to see on a resume to let you know that someone has the skills that you're looking for? And what are those skills?
I think folks already touched on a few of these, but I really like the quantifying your impact piece. In the tech space, we're always curious about KPIs that you are held to, like how is success evaluated? So being able to show how success was measured and quantifying that impact and incorporating data shows that you've already been thinking about that piece and been held to those performance metrics. Maybe you were required to complete 4 audits per week. Maybe you, even as a bartender, maybe you dealt with at least 100 customers per night. Quantifying that is really powerful and helps someone to wrap their brain around the nature of your experience. I really encourage folks too to think about folks that have graduated from, so for example, Nashville Software School's Data Bootcamp has been somewhere that we've hired 2 successful, very awesome new hires from. And that has been great because the first person that got hired, she did amazing. So then it was like, oh, wow, we have to go back to that Nashville Software School and see if they have more people. And similarly, if you know someone that graduated from the program, and you can even run a search on LinkedIn and see, hey, who has Coded by Kids or Coursera or anything in their LinkedIn experience, and then go see where they ended up landing a job. You can reach out to them and kind of create an internal advocate within the organization for you. And especially like someone from Nashville Software School, we were ecstatic to see another referral come through from that program, just because we got to see how amazing the talent from there is. I would also encourage folks to be open to untraditional experience. I'd say arguably an entry-level full-time role as a career switcher, as someone that's just jumping into this space and doesn't have professional experience yet, that might be the hardest type of role to secure, candidly. I would say being open to maybe a 2-month contract gig, being open to skills-based volunteering in order to build your resume. I know that is also a privilege to be able to afford to do that, but we actually talked about an example recently where a team member or a candidate at the time was trying to get hired at our company Seer. They hadn't had any experience yet with doing digital marketing. They saw there was a dog shelter next to our office that didn't have a website or a very active social media presence. They said, hey, can I just run your social profile for a month just to gain this experience? And then when they went to apply and put that on their cover letter, that was like mind blowing. So being open to things like that. I do not care if people are getting experience within the context of a really formal, rigid internship. The nice thing about the tech space is they're more curious to see about your technical competencies. Yes, there's certain types of experience they're looking for, but if you're able to prove to me you have advanced knowledge of Google Analytics through these various project things, like we are interviewing for success in the role, not for an ideal resume of what we think that experience needs to look like. And then lastly, I'd say try testing new things and being purposeful about what you're putting out there. Try testing an infographic resume. I am always impressed by those. They help to stand out. Leveraging data visualizations, color, half the battle is just getting that first interview. So using that to stand out. Consider going very deep and aggressive on a couple employers. And by aggressive, I mean, reaching out to folks from the company, attending their virtual events, engaging in their social media and tweeting back at them and things like that. I think sometimes it's worth going very purposeful and doing research on a few employers versus throwing everything at the wall and hoping something sticks. And by going after employers where you might already have connections there, where you know somebody, maybe someone else from that program landed there, I think that makes it even easier. So if I was giving advice to anybody, I'd say go high effort, low volume in the job search.
Heard. That's great advice, Lauren. Ben, I want to come back to you. So you are actually working in the tech industry. And I want to hear a little bit about, what does your day-to-day look like? What are the things that you really enjoy about your job? Can you help describe for someone who might be interested in getting into tech, what they might expect? What does your role entail? Can you share with us a little bit about that?
Sure. Thank you so much, Nikki. One good thing I would like to underline is this. It doesn't matter where you're coming from before getting to the tech industry. Yes, I was into the hospitality business, but now it's helping me a lot. You have to deal with customers. I used to deal with customers, and now it's helping me already a lot. Because sometimes it's you trying to explain an IT situation or problem to just a baby. And you have to calm down. You really have to calm down and go step by step when you're trying to deal with customers, with end users. They might yell at you. They might even sometimes curse you. Let it go. Go for it. Show them you can do it. So you see what you learn as being into the hospitality business, you're trying to transfer it into here. And at the same level, you always keep pushing yourself. As Lauren was saying, go learn more stuff. Like coding, wasn't too much my passion because I was like, okay, it's kind of too difficult, but my job is pushing me to learn how to code. So every single time I got into maybe a situation and I have to solve it with a script, I have to keep looking, going into freecode.com, go back to my student from Scholas, learn how to write some code in Python, get myself better at it. So I always keep pushing myself. And your environment, people are around you, the way they're working, it pushes you to say, okay, you know what? I'm not stopping here. I'm going higher. And while you're going higher, you're making more money. It's like you trying to impose to your employer what you're worth. You don't have to be like, okay, I just got into IT from being another company like hospitality business or something else, and me getting into it, and because of that, I have to sell myself cheap. No, you don't have to sell yourself cheap. You pay a price to get there. Make sure you put the level high when you try to discuss with them. They might be like, okay, you know what? We just have, for example, $5 an hour. And that's what people are just giving out there. No, go from the top. No, I want $10. And if they don't want to give it to you, keep pushing until they just give up. Because the point is, you know your worth. You know what you can do. And when you start working, keep giving yourself the best. Keep learning more. And don't, while you're doing that, make sure you give up to the community. Because someone took you from somewhere and get you where you are. You have the responsibility to help others also get there so that together you can move forward. I know some folks, they will just get wherever they are and they forget about where they're coming from. That's just a mistake most of us are making. People sacrifice their lives to make sure you get somewhere. No, you don't want to sacrifice yours to make sure also people get there. And that's why every single work everyone is doing. Nicole is working, Jabari is working, Lauren is working. Someone is just going to stop it somewhere there because what we just like to selfish sometimes, which is not good. And I hate that. It just hurts me so badly because you guys are killing yourself every single day to make sure we just keep pushing. But some people will just stop it. It's not right. And the other thing is the best way to just give back is to keep learning. Like I was doing my A+. I went back to Security Plus, and I came back again to get more so that I could move forward. So me doing that is not just for me, it's also helping others. Oh, Ben is able to do that. me too, I can do it. If Ben can do it, I can do it. Okay, so Scholas is in a relationship with Launchcode. How about just go also onto coding and learn something about that, and then like keep going? And people are going to follow you. Sometimes you don't even need to talk. People will just see that you doing your best, getting somewhere better. They will follow you. They will listen to you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the other thing I also want to underline, like when you talk about like what I'm basically like learning like, at work, apart from like getting like those certificates, it's the fact that you get to, get more people into your network. More network mean more advancement, because you don't know who is going to help you tomorrow. And you always have to make sure, be good to the one that were good to you. Because tomorrow you might meet someone who maybe knows Nicole or maybe Lauren. And then I'll be like, okay, we know Ben, he didn't get back when we gave him that chance. And that might stop you. So where you come from, get from there and make sure tomorrow have to give to others that are coming your way. Thank you so much.
Ben, I think you make a really important point, and I am incredibly sad that Shannon Morales from Trabaja could not join us today, because I think part of her message and the way in which you both were connecting on our preparation for this call was about building that community. And I want to ask Jabari a little bit about that. So, Launchcode, like Scholas, folks go through as a cohort, and we have found that those connections are incredibly important, because it's also about building and growing your social capital. So, Jabari, can you talk a little bit about your strategy and how Launchcode views cohorts, and what are you doing to also foster those relationships between learners?
So our candidate engagement managers are doing an excellent job in ensuring that the lines of communication are always open between the students, the staff, and then we constantly engage them at events. Like we had an event for some of the learners last week at Thursday nights that we put together with a networking event that, of course, Nikki was a part of. And I think being able to put them in those environments where sometimes that are unfamiliar, but like Ben was alluding to, doing it within the community makes it a little bit easier to be able to have those discussions and conversations. And to your point, if Shannon was here, connecting them with people with Shannon, like with Raha, they do an amazing job of creating this sense of community and just letting people know that those spaces are out there. So, Bit Philly is one. Mentor Me Collective is another one. I just got back, which Shannon was coming back from Afrotech. And having people being able to know that there are spaces where, for example, Afrotech, one of the largest Black tech conferences in the country, there was, close to 10,000 people out there. And just being able to be in the space with people that look like you from some of the same cultural backgrounds, but are so vast in their diversity, just gives you this sense of comfortability and being able to ask certain questions and be able to make certain mistakes without it really costing you a lot. And then being able to take that information back to a Launchcode or to a Scholas and be able to say, hey, here's what I learned from being around some of these employers. They said that you were able to do this. Lauren dropped the gem. I was sitting here taking notes. Just the infographic resume. Like I never would have thought to do something like that. And that's something that I think, just sharing that type of information within. And then once those candidates, once those students get through the program, they go and get jobs. To Ben's point, they then come back to the program as TAs, or they come back to the program and still engage with the other students and say, hey, I went through this whole process, I got a job, and I came back, here's what I learned. And then being able to give people some insight on that, I think is extremely important.
Jabari, I think those resources and those spaces are so important, and the fact that they're being created and that we are encouraging our learners to connect with them is even more important. I want to talk a little bit about environments, work environments. So creating those spaces where folks are included and they are making and is critically important. And so Lauren talked a little bit about it, but I want to hear from you. When you think about the employer partners that you're working with, who are not only looking to diversify their talent pipelines, but are making sure that their workplaces are inclusive and equitable for women and Black and Brown people in technology, what does that look like? What are you hearing? Who are your best partners? And you don't have to name names, but what does that look like from you? You know, how are you making sure that you're connecting your learners to places where they're going to thrive?
It looks like intentionality. It looks like we provide opportunities for our employer partners, whether they're an actual employer partner or a potential employer partner, to do volunteer work with our students. So they come and do resume writing workshops and mock interviews, and it allows them to come into the space and kind of be able to offer some type of mentorship or feedback, so that they can see that when we go out and we do spend all this time pitching and telling them how great our students are, they get to actually see, feel, and touch what that looks like. And then when they come back, then it's more of a conversation. Okay, oh, I know what you're talking about. Now I see where some of those transferable skills might lie. Now I see where some of those skill sets that I can't see on their resume kind of stand out now. Okay, now I'm invested. And then it allows them that space to be able to do that. So I think the intentionality is just those people truly engaging with the learners and truly engaging in those spaces, and not just, not just talking about it. And then providing them opportunities, like I said, to come out to, providing events and webinars and providing information. So, not hiding or hoarding the information, putting it out there for everybody to see, to ask questions about, and to, give feedback, and just take that feedback and say, okay, hey, our employees that came in said that they weren't comfortable doing X, Y, and Z. We had this very uncomfortable conversation. Once we have this uncomfortable conversation, then we can make the adjustments to it. So they're open to having those uncomfortable conversations and being able to actually make actionable adjustments to those in their work environments, to allow the learners and the candidates to feel comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that feedback loop and those candid, real conversations that are really going to be able to make and push for change that's meaningful.
Absolutely.
Lauren, we have some awesome stuff coming into the chat, and I want to give you a chance to both respond to that, and when you're a recruiter, and you're looking at talent, what are some strategies that folks can use besides being connected to an awesome program that might be able to connect them to an employer? How are they getting in? Are resumes going to job boards to die? What are some ways to get around that? And what are some suggestions that you have for folks that are trying to find a way in? And as you said before, focus their activity on fewer employers that they know they really want to work with.
Research. This is going to be your best friend. So like I said, reaching out in a meaningful manner and being intentional around it. So not the same situation, but when I went to break into Seer, I said, I want to reach out to the person that's in my dream job, that's in the role that I want, ask to pick their brain. It's not enough just to say, hey, can you give me some tips? I think it's helpful to say, hey, I read your blog post on XYZ. I saw you were the first recruiter at Seer. I'd love to learn what that was like. Did you build the interview process? I actually have a template I can share afterwards in terms of what you can say to someone to kind of break the ice and hopefully schedule a call with them. Again, it's not enough to get someone on a call. That's great when you do. Coming prepared with questions. What you're basically intent with that is someone that's basically going to act as a advocate for you internally. And most employers have referral bonuses in place. So now someone is financially incentivized of like, wow, this person took so much initiative. They researched the company. They're doing all this great stuff. They came with questions. That's someone that I'd want on my team. I always feel like it's helpful to have someone that is invested in you being hired within the company. We do take notice to who is engaging in our social, who's coming to our events. Granted, I know that's a luxury too, to be able to leave in the middle of the day and go to an event. But even signing up and tweeting at them like, hey, I attended XYZ events. That was really, really cool. I learned this thing. We take notice to that. I've had our company founder a few times say, hey, what's this tweet that somebody sent me, one thing that really stuck with me, I had someone create a kind of micro website for their like Seer resume and tweeted at our founder and the company, hey, here's why I think I'd be a great fit. We weren't even sure if his background was going to be a fit, but that person's getting an interview. So like I said, lower volume, high effort. Same for your cover letter. Taking things like, hey, the company values or the mission statement or the job description and kind of working backwards to show, here's how I fit into that. Like a customized cover letter for me is an indication that this would not scale to all employers. Like this is clearly something you built for Seer. And again, it sounds like I'm like just stroke Seer's ego all the time, but I think it goes a long way with folks when they're like, I want to invest in someone like that. They're clearly invested in us as an employer. So I think those are great. And then certifications that you can obtain online, Google Analytics, Google AdWords, things like that, I think reduce any, pushback, especially if this is going to be your first or second role within the space. I think having something, a third party external system validate at least a certain level of expertise within a skill set really helps to like strengthen your background. That would be my best answer.
Well, and Lauren, I'm gonna put you on the spot because we do have a chat in the a question in the chat that sort of says, how much value would you put on a Google IT cert or other certifications from Coursera or Google? How much does that matter? And I think certainly we probably all have something to add about the value of those things. And you just stated that, but how are you thinking about that? Are those great add-ons? Should someone spend their time doing that? What's your opinion?
Yeah, so I think those certifications are especially valuable when they're kind of a supplement for directly relevant experience. We do require team members within their first 60 days to obtain the certifications that are relevant for their respective team. It is not a requirement at the point of getting hired. We've hired plenty of people that didn't have it at the point of getting hired, but being able to, hey, if you don't have really deep experience, say, I have done everything within my power to try to level myself up. And that's the type of employee that I would want to invest in terms of hiring of like, hey, I took this certification on my own. And when you are interviewing, if you are in pursuit of certifications, I always say making things sound like an intentional plan versus like, I guess look at my Google Analytics certification saying, hey, I made a goal for myself by end of summer. Each month, I want to obtain a new digital marketing related certification, blah, blah, blah. I've finished Google Analytics. I'm doing Google AdWords next month. I think that it can be just sounds so much better even than just randomly picking something to get certified in. I think if you do have some of that experience, then might be able to relax that certification requirement. But if you're trying to show, hey, I am someone that's trying to break into this space, I am doing a lot of self-guided learning, I'm doing project work on the side, those certifications can help any like, oh, I don't know if they have that experience. And then similarly, I think it shows a level of initiative and care. And I think it can be something that can be a really big thing to put at the top of your resume or your LinkedIn profile to say Google Analytics certified developer, things like that. I think to really, I don't know, could make you more of an authority within the space.
I think that is absolutely excellent advice. And I know that, Scholas offers all of its alumni access to Grow with Google as part of our alumni offerings. And those are opportunities to continue to upskill and continue to refresh skills or develop new ones as you're working.
I put in the chat, our team loved the Python course and the project management course through Grow with Google. We onboarded that, so highly recommend those.
Let's talk a little bit about project management. I think that was one of the questions that we have in the chat, and I think it's super important. And so, Jabari and Lauren, I want to ask you about this. So, project management in terms of the offering or the value that you're seeing of that. And Jabari, I want to give you a little bit of a chance to sort of talk about what it is that someone might expect through Launchcode. What does that program look like? How intense does it look? And are you offering project management? What are you offering so that folks might know a little bit more about that? So let's go to you first, Jabari.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna back up for a second. So you asked first about what we're currently offering now, correct? Just want to make sure I hit all your questions. Okay. So right now, I know here in Philadelphia, we're going to be starting our part-time web dev course probably in about April. So that is going to be basically, your JavaScript, professional web development, and we're probably going to end in C# on that one. We're going to start offering a lot. We're going to start having a lot more offerings in the Philadelphia market. We just started this market out here maybe in January of 21. So we have a little bit of building to do on this side, but the Launchcode in general offers a lot of different courseworks in .NET. In Python, we have a Women Plus cohort, All Access cohort. I mean, we have a lot of different offerings here in Launchcode. And then the second question was geared toward the project management, correct?
Mm-hmm.
We don't currently offer something in project management, but this is kind of, and I know you can speak to this a little bit, Nikki, but this is kind of where that external transferable skill piece kind of comes into play. This is where those other skill sets kind of come into place. When you have somebody who's coming from a field where they had extensive management experience, they were a director somewhere else, they were a director or core manager somewhere, those skill sets of being able to manage multiple projects at the same time, keep everything organized, into to Lauren's earlier point, being able to look at the KPIs and the metrics and be able to quantify all of those things. All of that can kind of come into play for that PM role without even getting the formal education side of things, because for most employers, and Lauren, you can correct me if I'm wrong, those management skills aren't something that I can necessarily teach you on the job. The hard skills of what that entails with a particular company, I can teach you that. I can teach you about product. I can teach you about how our process works, but I cannot teach you how to manage all of these people and do all of that as fast as I can teach you the other thing. So I think that's really where our programming, us for Scholas, Brazilian coders, that's where our programming kind of comes into play, with pulling in all these non-traditional learners to be able to kind of make up, like Lauren said earlier, kind of make up for that lack of technical knowledge and to be able to push into the role like that.
Totally, Jabari. And I would say that, we are going to double down on that from Scholas as well, being able to look and, as Lauren suggested too, maybe take on other short-term projects or volunteer opportunities that give you that experience, even if it is partially paid or volunteer, super valuable, or to rely on past experience that you've had. We also are not offering anything specifically in project management, but have really leaned into full stack Java developer, IT support, network support, and cybersecurity. Now we'll be launching in 2023, but certainly getting those skills, it's not an impossibility. It's a great add-on. And Lauren, did you have anything to add around project management or how valuable those skills are?
Yeah, we did not offer any project manager roles as recently as 3 years ago. Now we have project managers on several different accounts. We're a project management team, and we invest in a project management software called Monday.com. So now it's hard to imagine our projects sometimes without the impact of a project manager. The skills of project management are super transferable to a lot of industries in terms of, being able to keep a project moving, hitting deliverables on time, ensuring they tie back to your audience, the client goals, and keeping all that in mind. Communication, all those skills are huge. And everybody at Seer, even if they aren't a formal project manager, they're doing some level of project management in terms of their work. That is like such an important skill set. I could see you moving into client services. I could see you moving into practitioner type roles, like an SEO manager, an analytics manager. It's even relevant for like web developers and keeping tabs of their projects. So I think if you were going to get a certification, that one would be extremely transferable, and it'd be easy to pull out themes from it and see how you could apply it. Like when you're thinking about interview questions, like, oh, something I learned in my project management course was X. I think that would be transferable. So I'm all about the project management.
That's great. And it's really interesting to see how Seer has evolved and really leaned into having that as key skills that you're looking for. We are rounding out the last 10 minutes, and I want to just make a call that if folks have questions, please put them in the chat and the Q&A. We were able to see them and get through them. But I want to turn to our panelists as we're waiting for more questions to come in. And Ben, I want to just ask from you, if someone walks away from this webinar, I for sure know that they have been motivated by your words, that we have already gotten some comments of a former bartender who's incredibly appreciative of your experience. What else do you want folks to know that from leaving this event today? What are sort of your words that you need to share that maybe I haven't asked you yet, but you want to make sure that folks leave hearing you say that?
Thank you so much, Nikki. One thing I would love everyone to go with is just don't give up. It's always difficult. There's a price to pay. Whether you want to achieve something, whether you want to build something, you always have to, put your foot inside and then keep it moving. If you don't do that, no one is going to do it for you. Make the first steps, and then all of us, either Scholas, either Launchcode, either Lauren with a company are going to help us get there. But all we need is that commitment of yours, that commitment of every single of our brothers and sisters out there that want to get into IT. Forget about your burden. Forget about whatever you're going through. You're always going to be there. Forget about them and then look up what you can do when you get into IT. And then you're going to achieve much more better. Thank you so much, Nicole.
Thanks, Ben. I think that's super important. And certainly knowing that you don't have to do it alone and there are other people that are going to cheer you on and stand with you and help you navigate. This is why organizations like Launchcode or Scholas or Launchpad or HopeWorks are here to be able to create those opportunities, but also there's lots of resources through One Philadelphia that you could take advantage of. And I know that we've included some of those in the chat. Jabari, I want to turn to you. I think that you have done an incredible job of sharing with us today, some of what you're hearing from your learners, some of the advice that you're sharing with them. What are some final things that you want folks to walk away having heard today, knowing, or other information that you just want to share?
So for the students or potential candidates, I would say that there are 1,001 options once you get into the door in the tech. And also that there are people that look like you and come from your background that have done this work and that have been successful at this work, and that will help you get through this work. For the employers, Ben is a prime example of what happens when you diversify your pipelines. When you allow people from non-traditional backgrounds, when you allow people from very diverse backgrounds and ethnicities to be able to get into the field, all they need is the opportunity. Once they get the opportunity, they will flourish. So you have to start looking at how to engage, companies like Launchcode and Scholas and Launchpad and HopeWorks to figure out different places to get your talent from. And you will have results that look like Ben. You will have evangelists who look like Ben who will come out and praise how much opportunity you provided them in order to get into the field and grow.
Great, Jabari. And Lauren, same question for you. What do you need folks to hear having walked away from this event today?
So on the employer side of things, some quick things that you can implement, move to a structured interview process. So developing role-specific, consistent interview processes that will mitigate bias by evaluating for success in the role, not like what I said, an ideal resume of what we think this person will look like. Add an anonymous diversity survey to your application process, add an optional field on your job application that allows folks to denote their name pronunciation, their pronouns, their ethnicity, their veteran status, and report on those things. Add a field to your employee referral form that we did this about 2 years ago, allows team members to say, does this person embody a underrepresented group within the organization, and give strong consideration to that. And then in terms of retaining that talent, allowing team members to develop training sessions and resources. We had 2 women build a training session called Inclusivity, Equity, and Power Dynamics in Meetings, just to make people aware of some people might want to participate, or here's why someone might not want to, or different like things that could be happening at play. And then invest in anti-harassment DE&I training platforms. We got one called Athena, and encouraging team members to share their resources. On the candidate side of things, I would say the nice thing is this industry is extremely penetrable for career switchers, folks from diverse backgrounds, people that are breaking into the space. It's always evolving, and like folks have previously said, the diverse backgrounds are going to make companies that much stronger. It's always evolving, and have those different perspectives is those companies perform better. Like if you were purely being just selfish, those companies perform better. I think it's such an important thing to be involved in, but I think that's one to walk away. It's better for everybody. There is lower barriers to entry in this space. You can get into this space without having to have your CPA or this really formal education requirement. You could be entirely self-taught. You do not need a college education. And I would strongly encourage folks to take the initiative, because like what they said, once you get in, so much easier. It's that first job that's the hardest one to land. There's so many options once you get in this space. I thought that was a great piece of advice, Jabari.
For sure. And there are certainly, as I said before, lots of programs that can support you through that. If you don't want to take the journey on your own, but you can certainly. We had an awesome question in the chat that I thought perhaps Jabari and I can answer, that said, are you providing additional supports through these programs that are focused on mindset and mental health? And are you providing full wraparound educational services? I can speak for Scholas in that we are really thinking about supporting our learners in a very holistic sense. We have a learner support team that we engage, as well as our local staff that are focused on financial health, mental health and wellness, and anything else related to either the barriers that may stand in your way or the things that you will need to continue to be successful in your career in tech. And so we do that through allowing our learners to have access to those resources and having those conversations in our training programs. We do a lot of professional development, but professional development is also about the wellness that you need to make sure that you're successful both in the program and for years to come. So we certainly do that. And I appreciate that question. And I want to offer Jabari a chance to answer as well.
I mean, literally the same thing that Nikki just said. I think right now we're really building out all of our relationships with a lot of social service organizations in the city, because there's one thing that I know Nikki and I agree on, is that there's certain things that we do very well and there's other things that we do not. And for the things that we do not, we ensure that we have connections and relationships that can. And we always like to try to reach out. So we our senior community engagement manager, Erin, she's been doing an excellent job of trying to really build these relationships with a lot of community organizations surrounding mental health, surrounding financial literacy, surrounding other aspects of life that happen that would either keep someone from completing the course or keep someone from even starting. So we like to try to build those relationships, and we're definitely in the process of building them out and building more traditional formats of being able to really, kind of, hand somebody off. And it's not just a handoff of, hey, go over there and we'll, talk to you later. It's very much relational. It's very much us checking in. And then when that person gets the services that they need and they're able to come back, we're going to be right here waiting for them. I know Scholas is going to do the same thing.
Yeah, for sure, Jabari. Well, I want to thank you all so much for being here for this conversation. Thank everyone who's tuned in today. And I want to give the last 30 seconds to Damon White from One Philadelphia to plug the remaining events in Innovation Weekend.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate all of you and your participation. This was an unbelievable panel, just hearing from everyone and your perspectives. Ben, you had me in here clapping. Really was moving hearing that story. Lauren and Jabari as well. I think this conversation is so important. I was at an event yesterday and I got a chance to actually speak to some participants from Launchcode and some other tech programs here in the city, and just hearing from them and hearing them say, like, hey, what's out there, what's going on, and seeing that excitement. And one of the things I think Jabari might have mentioned is there's such a dedication and commitment that it takes to complete a boot camp when you're an adult learner or you're a career changer, because you have other things like life to focus on in addition to actually completing that program. So for those of you who have participated in programs or in the process or have completed a program, hats off to you. Your work will be rewarded as you enter this workspace. So as Nikki touched on, we do have some other events planned for the rest of the weekend. Tonight, we're doing a pitch competition at Hive. We also have a after party at Spin PHL. Feel free to come out and network with the community as well. And then tomorrow, we're actually going to be honoring our grantees, which include Launchcode as well as Scholas at the Innovation Awards at the Barnes Museum. So in the chat, there's a link for Innovation Weekend. There's some tickets still available for either event. We'd love to see you out there. Thank you so much for participating in the panel, as well as those who has put in questions. It was great to see some people I met yesterday popping in questions into the panel today. So it was great to see you guys, and I appreciate you all for your contribution today.
Thanks, Damon. Have a good day, everyone. Thanks so much.
Take care, guys.